You're listening to the 2025 GWP Thanksgiving Special. I'm your host, Isaac Hedges, joined by co-host Jacob Palmer. Jake, what are we looking at today?
Today, we'll be talking about dinner table discussion, dinner etiquette, plus many other prizes.
All right. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start off with dinner table discussion. So, why are we talking about a dinner table?
What are we talking about at the dinner table?
Well, what does Thanksgiving have to do with a dinner table?
Well, I suppose the traditional Thanksgiving feast involves a dinner table. Does that answer your question? You need any elaboration on that?
Well, oh, that day where we all eat too much food, is that what you're talking about?
Sure.
All right, now I
Yes.
remember it. When you said Thanksgiving, that didn't really ring a bell, but when we started talking about food, that's where you got me.
Well, absolutely, my friend. A lot of great food there, but let's not forget the reason for the holiday. And if you have any questions about that yourself, we covered it extensively in our Thanksgiving Day special last year. So you'll want to check that out if you have any questions on that front. But without further ado, our main focus now is discussion around the dinner table at Thanksgiving. Have any thoughts on that, Jake? Just how that usually goes down. Any personal experience on that with your family? Any thoughts on it?
Well, when I think back to some stories I've heard of,
Uh-huh.
there's some people who sometimes choke on the meal, but
Yeah, that's happened,
on the
unfortunately.
very few occasions that doesn't,
Oh, okay. So I see. This is sort of your Thanksgiving tradition. Someone chokes
yes,
on something.
on the very few occasions that doesn't happen, I guess you could say that it's a very wonderful time.
Yes.
A good time for Thanksgiving and fellowship among family and friends.
So you say that ordinarily someone chokes at your Thanksgiving table, and because of that, Thanksgiving ordinarily isn't a isn't an enjoyable time.
Well, I wasn't going to name names, but I guess since we're on the discussion, I think you were talking about that a while back.
About choking?
Yeah, except I think it had to do something with like a taco shell.
Right, right. Not exactly Thanksgiving dinner, but
Well, sometimes it is, can be.
well, it could be. It could be. And
There's many
well,
different
that
types of
has
traditions out there.
right. And now that you mention that, that has happened. Well, on my mother's side of the family that I know of. It's interesting. I've probably mentioned it to you at some point. I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but on my mom's side of the family, I think it was a Thanksgiving dinner. Her grandmother began choking on a turkey bone, I believe, or
Oh
a bit of
man.
meat, something like that. But her
Hmm.
son, my grandfather, was a paramedic and then very well trained on that front, and so he was able to give her the Heimlich maneuver as he did with many other members of our family, saving their lives. Uh, so um, very fortunate that that happened.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're talking about the ending of that story.
Right, right, right. Not fortunate that the choking occurred, but fortunate that that the effect of it wasn't more severe.
Yeah. Yeah, that certainly was good, and I'm glad that everything ended up all right. And so, one of the number one causes of choking is people eating
Uh,
too quickly, or
right,
particularly
certainly are.
talking while eating, which is something that a lot of
Right,
people tend to do at the Thanksgiving table.
right, certainly. And of course, that ties into our subject at hand, a discussion around the dinner table at Thanksgiving. And well, hopefully we'll be able to have a great discussion around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, but we'll give you a few tips of things such as choking. don't occur. And for our regular viewers, you may say, "Oh, well, who are you to say?" From a fellow who choked himself. And if you don't know what we're referring to, just check out our YouTube channel. You'll recognize one of the a unusual location, and you may recognize that as a Taco Bell, and you'll have to check that out on our channel. Any questions, any curiosity about that? But that was a very close call when it
It
comes to
was.
things of this. But fortunately, I was able to make it out on the other end, though I certainly had my doubts. I don't know about you, Jake. I know you were there that night. It was very rough. You have any personal memories from that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still think about it. I just
Think
have
about
to
it
say
frequently,
that
huh?
I think about it hourly
Mm.
about how dangerous it
Hourly.
was.
Yes. Yes, that was rough. And so we'll give a few things here that'll help to ensure that that sort of thing doesn't happen. And so there has been a lot of talk about this, which will place a larger emphasis on the things that maybe you should and shouldn't, what's polite and proper in topic two, of course, which we mentioned in the overview, which is going to be about etiquette for Thanksgiving dinner. But as far as discussions or around the table, that's something, of course, that's beneficial. Your family gets together. You're seeing people in your family that maybe this is the only time all year that you get to see them. Jake, I don't know about your family, but I know many families that is the case. It's holidays like these that it's really the only time that you have all these relatives getting together in one place.
Yeah, that certainly is true. There's not really a lot of other days of the year in which that happens. Some could say, Christmas, I know, is also very, or just that time of the year is also very popular for celebrating. In fact, you'll have to check out our
Uh,
Christmas special as the holidays are upon us. Thanksgiving is 2 days away. Of course, in the weeks following that, Christmas and then a new year, and our 50th episode will be coming at the end of season 4. So you want to
Absolutely
stick around for
huge
all of that.
milestone on that front. You want to stay tuned for our 50th episode, folks. This will be one for the ages. You will not want to miss it. So, as far as that goes, discussion around the dinner table at Thanksgiving. As we mentioned, this is a big occasion, and quite a lot of people, many more probably than you're used to, are going to be involved in those discussions around the dinner table on Thanksgiving. So be wanting to make sure to put your best foot forward when that happens, when time comes for that. And we covered stories, different op-eds from a major newspaper that you're likely aware of, the New York Times. Many people have strong feelings about that paper one way or another, but most people have heard of it at some point. And well, if we go a few years back, mine too, just as we were coming out of COVID, interestingly enough. But on a separate note, around 2020, 2021, they would run articles often to the nature of, oh, these Thanksgiving dinners, you discuss things with your relative who you disagree with, and oh, your relative on the other side of the political aisle. Well, you disagree. Perhaps you shouldn't even get together with these people. And if you do, then you best put them in their place. And it seems that in more recent times, they put out a recent article, I believe only a matter of a month or so ago, at the time of filming now, they put one that sort of would seem to retract their previous statements. They said, "Oh, remember those relatives that we previously told you not to talk to? Yeah, it is those relatives that you disagree with that are on the opposite side of the political aisle. We told you not to talk to them before, and maybe kind of put them in their place." We're like, "No, no, no, you should get together with them for Thanksgiving. Maybe actually talk to them now." You have any thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, well, holidays are definitely a time of the year when people should be coming together, and nobody should ever be alone on Thanksgiving. And
Absolutely.
you may have differences, you may have major differences. You
Right.
know, it could be. very serious, of course. And,
Right.
sometimes it may be, something very ugly that's going on in your life, or maybe you don't like somebody in your family because, you know, they said that your
Have
couch
to
was
disagree with
ugly. I mean, things like that that could cause very big, major disagreements. And so, for that reason, it's always good to see when people come together for even the biggest problems that people can argue about, like that ugly couch.
Right, absolutely more because, well, why are these people here for Thanksgiving? Well, most often they're your family, they're your friends. You've got some sort of connection with them. And in most cases, that's far more significant than these, than these other differences, different ways of thinking. And it requires, of course, some degree of maturity to move past those. Say, oh, I'm not diametrically opposed to you on almost every issue, but we're still family. I still love you, so we're still gonna get together and celebrate like families are supposed to. And by golly, we'll find something to discuss, something pleasant that we can agree on. Because that's Thanksgiving, it's and holidays of all sorts. We're supposed to be cordial and we're supposed to come together and spend time with family. And as far as that goes, these previous articles, I don't know about you, Jake, but as far as my family, we've always celebrated together. And there are people in my family of varying alignments of schools of thought. And we've always gotten together for holidays such as Thanksgiving and not necessarily taken notice of offhits such as these that would sort of seem to suggest that we should instead give each other the cold shoulder because we have a minor disagreement on one thing or another. And well, I don't know about you, but
Couch.
I'm glad that we continued to get together.
Yeah, I
Any thoughts
certainly am
on
too. And, I have to say that if you're one of those people that's still really mad about that couch, I mean, just
that?
just sit on the silly couch. I'm telling you, just sit on it.
Uh-huh.
It'll be fine. It'll be
It
totally
will be.
fine. You can go back to your own couch on Black Friday,
Right.
but until
Perhaps
Black
even a brand
Friday
new one.
hits, yes. And if you're the person hosting, do not get upset if somebody gives you an ugly look when they sit down on your couch. Just be glad that they didn't haul in their own couch into your living room.
Absolutely, absolutely. We know that would be no bueno. And as far as that goes, kind of leading into our next topic on etiquette, Jake, you mentioned as far as hosting, things you might get frustrated with. Oftentimes that, there's a great deal that goes into hosting, especially on Thanksgiving, all of the cooking that goes into that, preparing for the feast, the cooking, cleaning, and all of that. Coordinating things with the guests, sending out invitations, who all is going to be there. There's quite a lot going on. And whichever end of this you find yourself on, there's only one host and often quite a few who attend Thanksgiving dinner. So most often going to be a guest. And going to be a guest in someone's house, well, it's important to be polite and etiquette because after all, they were nice enough, you could say, to invite you into their home for Thanksgiving. So expressing a bit of etiquette and being polite about things, I would say, is the least that you could do. Any thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that etiquette is very important to have. Obviously, one thing that goes into dinner etiquette is just, well, we won't say that on YouTube. So instead, we'll
Won't say
just,
it on there. Won't say it
yeah.
on there, but
In
but
fact, we
we
may
did
not
say
even
it.
say
It's
it off the air,
probably
but
probably in that case something that goes without saying.
yes, it is. Etiquette is
Guarantee you
a
false.
very important thing. We'll go ahead and say that. And
Right, absolutely,
believe it or
absolutely.
not, it does not have to do with your finger.
All right. And well, as we said, we're going to be focused on guests because No, actually, it is more likely that you'll be a guest because there are necessarily more guests than hosts. But etiquette is not only important to the guests, it's also important for hosts, when it comes to the way that you clean things, welcome guests into your home, and things, even down to the way that you set your table. There are conventions and that perhaps ones that you might not follow on a daily basis, but Thanksgiving being a major feast and the major holiday that it is, may want to make a special recognition of it by say setting the table properly. And there are all kinds of charts that you can find as far as where does this fork go, where does this fork go, where does this knife, spoon, the plate, the saucer, and all of those things. And that is worth knowing. And this day and age is not all that complicated. If you don't have a chart, you can simply look up online a chart for how to set the table. You can search it up anywhere. You can run a search on the internet, Google it, as they say, or perhaps even ask Copilot Chat GPT. So that's what they have to say. It'll be accurate, but not at all difficult to find, and certainly
Yeah, I'm sure if you
worthwhile.
asked Copilot, it would probably remove a couple of the tines on the forks or
Right,
add some extra ones. It's probably more likely since it seems to add extra
right,
fingers and
right. If he
extra
has to frame an
letters and
image, yes, Copilot generate a chart of this. Well,
so
there's one problem that the entire table is a fork, so I'm afraid we can't use this chart. Yes.
in fact, you
So,
know what? We're already here, so we might as well just go ahead and see what Copilot does if we were to do that.
absolutely. So let's pull up Copilot, see what it has to say about how to properly set a table.
All right.
Copilot pulled up there, Jake,
Um, let's see. There's
in the
a
process
little
of
bit
it.
too many decorations to see exactly where my mouse is at.
Well, I can always pull it up if you prefer.
I'm not sure where the pointer went. Okay, there we go. I found it. Okay.
Thanks for your patience, folks.
Yes, thank you very much. As we just pull up
Darn
the Copilot. So here is
your
Copilot.
camera.
Yeah, look, there we go. Is that Copilot? Can you see Copilot?
I can.
All right, well, then that means that probably everybody else can. Let's go
Absolutely.
ahead and use this little voice tool, okay?
That means that in all likelihood, all of you at home can also see Jake's screen. We now have Microsoft Copilot queued up and are prepared to ask some questions about how to properly set a table. Just without further ado, let's get that question in and what it has to say. And Jake, I also noticed that you were on the microphone there. And if you are on the same computer as this Zoom meeting, well, your microphone is already in use, so you may have to type out the question.
Yeah, that is a really good observation that I'm glad that you just made. I am going to
Absolutely.
probably have to, like, for that, I may have to move some of these decorations out of the way, which
To get to
is
the
good
keyboard.
because we're going to have to for our next topic, anyways. So,
Right.
create an image of the dinner table. Let's see what Copilot does for us. I'd love to,
Well,
but it looks like you're not signed in right now. Well, that is quite an interesting way for it to respond. Like we said
beautiful
before,
dinner table right there.
yeah, um, that is a really great one. I have to say, I cannot believe that that's what happened.
It is.
So, well, the good
Oh,
news is that we are going to let you go out and do it yourself. So you
right.
can have the joys of finding out how good Copilot is at doing that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And encounter the same issue that we did here, as we mentioned. You could always simply run a search on the internet, Google it,
you
just
know,
properly
why
set the
don't we just
table.
go ahead and
You
do
should
that?
easily be able to find an image of that. Let's
All
see
right.
what we can find, Jake. You're searching that
Well,
up?
Um, oh yeah, that is definitely what I'm doing. And there we are, Zoom. Thank you very much for helping us put on these virtual episodes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, by our video feed, we are here today, thanks to Zoom.
We are.
Absolutely. So, any progress on that web search, Jake?
We are most certainly coming right along here.
All right.
So first we're going to start with non-Thanksgiving.
And at this moment, I cannot see your screen, so if I had to guess, I'd say our viewers cannot see it either. I'm not sure
Yes,
what
I'll
sort
go
of
ahead
technical difficulty
and
we're
there we
experiencing at
are.
the moment. And yes, now I can see it. Hopefully, all of our great viewers out there can see this as well. And if not, on your screen is an image of a properly set table or a single setting there. So, of course, in the center is the dinner plate. Your largest, your
Let's
main
make that bigger for you guys.
directly in front of you there in the center. And on the right side, you have your dinner knife, your soup spoon. On the opposite side, or the left side of the dinner plate, you've got your dinner fork atop a neatly folded, clean napkin. And of course, just in front of that dinner plate, out ahead of it, and to the right, you have a water glass. Now, this is a fairly simple table setting as we've described, and as you can see here on your screen. But again, oftentimes you have a dinner fork in addition to a salad fork. Oftentimes you have multiple glasses, a water glass in addition to a wine glass, and all sorts of additional things that you could have. And of course, you'll often have a tablecloth, all sorts of other things you can add to your table. So if you're interested in doing a bit more, then perhaps you can find another chart, which just as this one should be fairly easy to find online if that's something that you're in search of. If you're new to table setting, this may be an ideal one, or if you'd like to try something new, maybe try a bit more sophisticated one.
So, speaking of more sophisticated or fancy, I guess,
All
here we
right.
go. That right there is a picture of a bit more of a extended, we'll say, version of what we were just looking at.
Absolutely. And this is much closer to a complete table setting. And oftentimes, not all of the things that you see here will actually be used for Thanksgiving dinner. The things that jump out here that might not be the most useful for Thanksgiving dinner are your fish knife and your fish fork. Perhaps some people do have fish on Thanksgiving, but certainly isn't common here in the United States, mainly where Thanksgiving is celebrated. And speaking of your main course on Thanksgiving dinner, you'll recall in our last episode, and if you didn't see it, you'll want to check it out on our YouTube channel, the Great World Podcast. But we sent out a poll asking our viewers if they preferred ham or preferred turkey, because after all, those are the two most common meats, the two most common main courses for Thanksgiving dinner. And I believe ultimately the verdict came back and Ham took the lead, but it was a very close one. And just for a little bit of a review on that, Jake, which side did you come down on?
Well, I have to
All we
say
sent
that
out.
I have to always stay very faithful to my friend, the turkey.
Yes, I recall that. And of course I've come down on the other side of that, favoring ham. But certainly, as we mentioned in our previous Thanksgiving Day special, perhaps more common, more traditional one would be the Thanksgiving turkey. And that actually was included at the very first Thanksgiving feast. Again, if you'd like to learn more about the history of Thanksgiving, just check out our very first Thanksgiving Day special on the Great World podcast. Jake, anything else you might add to table setting or etiquette in general when it comes to Thanksgiving? Anything from personal experience that would be worthwhile?
We're getting very close to me being able to settle this debate once and for all. This
Very
is
close.
yeah,
Very
very
close.
very close.
But of
And
course, as far as that goes, we've now touched on what you can do as a host when it comes to etiquette for Thanksgiving dinner, how to set the table. But of course, as we said before, more likely, yes, because of course, one host, many guests when it comes to these holidays. So, whenever you come to Thanksgiving dinner as a guest, to a relative or friend's house for Thanksgiving, what should you do to be polite, to put the best foot forward? Any ideas on how one might go about that, Jake?
well, by not being rude, that would be the first
By
one.
not being rude. Well, that would be a start. That would
Yeah.
be a start. Don't be rude. But folks, I think we can do one better than that. I'm just saying what you shouldn't do, but perhaps some things that might just be beneficial to do when it comes to Thanksgiving dinner. Of course, you have the typical things when it comes to etiquette and good manners. Of course, you want to sit up straight with your feet under the table, no elbows on the table. Want to chew with your mouth closed, all right? No one wants to see your food when you're chewing on it. And if you chew with your mouth open the rest of the year, wouldn't recommend it, but at least don't do it when you come over for Thanksgiving dinner. A number of things there. Of course, you
Um,
want to have your napkin in your lap, but then a number more nuanced things when it comes to etiquette. This might not come in so handy for Thanksgiving. I actually had the opportunity to attend a couple of etiquette dinners, and there are interesting details as far as the conventions of etiquette and what really one is supposed to do on that front. Now, one that relates to etiquette, not necessarily Thanksgiving. Perhaps some people have soups at Thanksgiving or things of that nature, but when you're eating soup, of course, with a spoon, many people don't do it in the proper way, but you want to bring that spoon, you want to bring it down into the soup, out, and you want to bring it up to you, and you want to bring, that's the major point. You want to bring the food to you, not you to the food. And that's not just with soup, right? Because you don't want to be hunched over your plate. This is where your posture, as we mentioned, comes in. You want to be sitting up straight. Very important to be respectful and put your best foot forward. And if you have a proper posture, that nice new shirt that you got for Thanksgiving dinner, if you have proper posture, you're much less likely to get any sort of food or stains. And if you use that napkin in your lap, very likely to cause any damage to any of your clothes, any of your garments, and wouldn't want to do that now, would you?
yes, you wouldn't want to do that. And I also heard somebody say one time that in order to have proper man etiquette, when you go to take a drink of water, this shows you how much of a man you are. If you raise your elbow like this, you're a real man when you drink. Your elbow's like this, well, you guessed it. So, anyways, that
Well,
leads us into the last topic for tonight, which is
I
the
don't
big
recall hearing
surprise
that
at
one in
the
my
end.
etiquette dinners.
So, here is the last topic. But before we get into that, we are going to start spinning this wheel right here that is going
Spinning a
to break
wheel.
the tie, between our debate between turkey and ham. So, of course, since we both said opposing ones, we're going to go ahead and spin this a very equal wheel here. So, we're going to go ahead and
Yes, that
start
looks
doing that.
fair.
Yeah, very, very fair, isn't it? So, while we're waiting to see what the results, hey, look at that. It's my friend Turkey. Isn't that a really big shocker? Turkey looks like is going to be the winner.
Hmm.
for tonight.
Don't think you read that quite right, but all right.
Yeah, you don't think so? Well, that's what the results said. And also, just want to have a shout out to another one of our special guests who was on here tonight. Say hello to One Legged. His other
One-legged.
leg got
Okay.
lost in the wind last year. So here's our scarecrow right here. So just
Yes,
wanted to,
and forgive me for not mentioning that at the top of the show, but of course we were joined also tonight by special guest, One-legged. And on that note, as far as your decorations, I noticed to get to the keyboard that you had to move some of those from the front of your camera.
yeah, we had this one right here.
Uh, it's a very nice hat you've got there.
Oh, this
And
one? Yeah,
yes, and I can't,
this was from One Legged's buddy that didn't make it. So
well, yes, I noticed it's still got a bit of
rest in
his head
peace.
attached to it.
Yeah, well, we'll just go ahead and have One Legged try to
Um,
wear that hat. So
yeah.
something else before we run out of time for tonight. What do we like to do during Thanksgiving and what I encourage all of you to do this Thanksgiving?
Well, what's that?
We've been talking about it for the last 30 minutes is eat,
Eight. All right.
even though it looks like it's backwards for you guys sitting at home.
All
And
right. So,
also
any more specifics?
make sure that you drink a lot of fluids, okay? Make sure that you drink plenty of fluids as you go throughout. It looks like that I ran out of water here. So
Absolutely. And we mentioned the concern of choking at Thanksgiving at the top of the
choke on the
show.
ice.
Well, yes, keeping fluids going down,